Wela Mago. Ahora le cae el Tramus. Apolo. Cae Mago. Mateo Baro Zele. Oh, how's Zele?
Monto a kwagale gabotse.
Ah, wa kwagala you are.
Okay.
Wa kwagala you are.
I hope today it will feature the whole session because I managed to download the app.
Oh yes. Oh, that's wonderful.
I hope it will feature Luku.
And you are very clear, much clearer.
Eh.
No, that's wonderful. That's all what you needed to do in the Dramut.
Yeah, I think so. And you kept reminding me already. Have you downloaded the app?
No, that's wonderful. Greetings, Ndadera Bula.
Liga Brasem.
Wanale guy.
Well, no, Leonard man. Rwana cold weather fella, which is one of those things we need.
Yeah. Malume Ake was one of the first people to be exposed to the Zwana language. And yeah, so when I came to Gauteng, I don't know whether it was fashionable. After a couple of months, ke ya gae, a re ba re le kae ka re ke teng, a re mona o teng ga eng mona, o meditse ke
Yeah.
a re o teng ga eng, o meditse ke eng. And then now re ke lapile ba re o kgathatsa ke eng. So Setswana le Sepedi se na le go fapana here and there. A re monna o fo ya Gauteng, the next thing o tšo re ke teng. You know what has changed?
What's up, Umrana Rapula?
Le gore mongwame.
Hona ralena, khosi ya me.
It's namorago. Wa itse khosi it's namorago.
It's namorago. It's ba no khosi e.
I said please.
Nkgopotsa bashimane ba bang ne ba bereka ko dry clean ya ko hae sa le ra rana dry clean. A re fitlha ko hae ya matlala. Bashimane ba le ba bolela Sezulu mona. Ba nyaka go bontsha batho gore bona ke ditlebo. O mongwe a re ko bona re welang kwa mane re a tseba gore le bereka ko dry clean ya ntate Ramutla. Ba itile ditleba ba bolela Sezulu le Bapedi ba le two. Yeah.
Divesha, I'm trying to welcome you over. I don't know why you are not able to come. And then, welcome.
I'm in the studio, Sam. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
No, I'm connected.
Welcome. And then Ramutla, there are the other people, we call them Bahananwa, Wabait. Kibeke Buja Emmanuel or the Kasperi Ravija Mahana Wus in our language diversion. They don't want to be ruled by anybody. So in Setswana, we say, I think Emmanuel will correct that. They call them Bahananwa. They are actually a tribe. But they settled down in Bloberg.
Okay.
And they're also in Botswana, I think very close to Francistown, Bahanano.
Yeah. But that comes from them having rejected whoever their leader was. And when they got Limpopo, then they chose to be on the Bloberg mountain so that they can always be able to see Botswana from Limpopo.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
That's very interesting.
Welcome, Emmanuel. You know, you can. I hope you have researched the story since you and I spoke.
My brother Sam, good evening, colleagues. Divej and Tatera Pula, good evening. It's been weeks. I hope you are well that side.
I can only say welcome back, Khoshia. Yeah, ke bitse Khoshia ba hana re ke Khoshia. Kana the former president ke
Ibangwatu.
Bangwat. So that's why I give you go with ba hana no Bangwat, Khoshia Bangwat. Gare naga kona
The Bahananas probably they never wanted to be ruled by the Hamas, the Hamas. I'm just assuming. Probably I'm wrong.
So you got it right, so he just confirmed.
Is it?
Mm.
And then in Bumalanga, next to Marble Hall, we have what they call the Marana Obushwa Leseabushwa. So there are two villages opposite each other. They are both in Teveles. The Seabushwa, that means those are the ones who accept to be ruled. That's why there's and then those who didn't want to be ruled, they went on the other side of the road, and then they called themselves Marana Obushwa, the ones who doesn't want to be ruled.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's how we've got Bush
You
and
must actually visit them. They are the same tribe. They just chose not to belong to a particular king.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, welcome, colleagues. Thank you so much. Sekha, I can see you. I'm not sure whether you want to come over to the studio. I'm just going to invite you in case you are able to. So, colleagues, we are at unit number 21, and conduct is number 16, and it's about projection, showing up, and social learning. Very much follow up to last time's content. As I said before, the beauty about these contents are that they are so intertwined, and the higher we go with the units, the more actually it's just repetition and revision and entrenching more items. But I'm very excited about today's topics because they are quite very interesting. If you look at it closely, they speak to our Lekgotla philosophy. Lekgotla is a social learning environment. And today we are talking about that in terms of you hosting the show, but from the point of view that your show is there as a learning unit. So yeah, let me stop here and ask you to greet us with few remarks based on what has been happening since last time. We are a full house today, which is great. We're missing few other people, but yeah. But any remarks, update? How have you all been? And how is winter treating you? Very cold in Southern Africa.
I think, and let me start by Sam because I'll allow Emmanuel to take a lot of time because he's been away for too long. It looks like ODN is keeping him extremely busy. But from my side, the winter has decided to lock me inside to make sure that I work as much indoors as possible. The only thing which a little bit is sore of my side, 2 weeks ago on a Saturday, I had a friend of mine sitting around a table having a little bit of, come together. And last week, Tuesday, decided, no, he doesn't belong to this world again. So going to bury him this Saturday. So it's a very, very sore sort of experience. You know, when you spend the whole day with a person, the next moment you said, you know what, I had a wonderful day. And 2 or 3 days down the line, he's no more. It's part of life. But those are the dynamics. Yeah, those are dynamics of the world we live in. Enjoy the moment I'm with you guys. You never know the next moment what the ticket is we're standing. But I don't think mine will come very close. It's very far. Thank you. That's my introduction for now.
But indeed, it's a valuable point you are raising. We need to enjoy each other as much as possible because only the Almighty knows. And you don't want to say, "Sure, I wish I had spent enough time, I had engaged sufficiently." And there's many such stories where there was the last moment, but you never knew it was, and then you feel you did not maximize the time. That's why we're talking about social learning. It's the same as social living. We are social beings. We belong to each other. For as long as we are in each other's space, we need to maximize that moment because you never know. Thank you, Rapula. We don't want to talk about these things, but it's the fact of life.
Good evening, everybody. Frank Ramutla, Makolodo.
Welcome.
No, I think I had a very quiet weekend after we went to Matadeni last week. This week I was just home, and as traditional people, the second week of the month are Gidi Society. So I attended the Street Society and I attended the one that will bury me when I go to Limpopo. So yeah, I attended both of them because we came back from the funeral last week. I didn't qualify to go to church, so I had a very quiet weekend. Yeah.
Mm.
Hey, my daughters took me by surprise, and they kept asking, "Papa, ka weekend to Yaka?" And then they take me there. When we arrived there, Prasem, they bought me 3 suits.
Wow.
They bought me
Sure.
3 suits. Yeah, they took me by surprise, and I was just at the back seat like a king, being driven by them.
Wow, that's beautiful, man.
Anyway, colleague, last week we had a very, very good session that took me down memory lane when I was a social worker for the first year, because we addressed the issues of emotional intelligence. And I noted that in social work, we were dealing with people whose social functioning is impaired. So our job was the restoration of impaired capacity. So yeah, we dealt with the 4 quadrants: self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship. For me, it took me back to social work, and I really enjoyed the session because we also addressed the principles of social work: acceptance, being not judgmental. And I've also noted that we as social workers, we were just guiding the conversations using the principles and the approaches that we addressed last week. So it was a very, very important and interesting session. Thank you. I'm looking forward to today's Conduct 16 projection. So yeah, let's engage.
Thank you very much for the feedback, Mr. Ramudla. Much appreciated.
Once again, colleagues, good evening. Ke le dumedisa. I'm greeting you from Francistown, Botswana. That's where I am currently. It's been a quite busy, I think, and still a busy few weeks ahead for me. That I think I missed the 2 or 3 sessions, but I'm glad the team carried on, and I've been listening to the recordings. I would say we are really right in the right direction with this shows that we are hosting. Very informative, I would say. But I'm just a quick recap for my weeks so far. I would say I've been engaged. I'm much busy with the conference that we are hosting the side in August on the 29th to the 30th in Gaborone. So it's taking much of my time, I would say. I sometimes spend quite a number of time in calls trying to reach out to, people there that we could possibly, bring to this conference. But otherwise, it's a good experience, I would say, where you get to learn meet people, see how other organizations are doing their things as well, and trying to adapt what they're doing and see how best you can also do better in the conference. It's one thing that I think is keeping me on toes right now. And beside that, I've been traveling a lot, checking in family. I've been hearing Rapula saying, on the importance of family, and checking on each other at home. The valuing the friendship and all the stuff. So I've been doing a lot of family checkups more often. So you'll find me when Sam calls, I will say, no, I'm on the way to the village. Or I'm coming from the village. So that's how I think I now got to appreciate such small things. Go to people, spend time with them, and then come back, because we were always busy. But it doesn't have to really take us away from people. There are those people that once we finish whatever the course that we are into, we're going back to them. So we need to cherish those moments. We never know when it ends. But otherwise, I've been good and really, really grateful for this opportunity to be here today. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Dadenjang. As always said from my side, we look forward to the day when we can be part of that conference. And I was challenging you to talk to your leadership that maybe they should consider bringing it to Johannesburg or whichever town in South Africa. Or if it goes back to Zim, maybe we should try a South African entourage to join the next year. If you can give us the dates way in advance so we can put it on our calendars.
Thank you so much.
You are our link, that side.
Very true.
Thank you very much.
Evening, Sam. Evening, colleagues, and evening to the listeners. This is Divesh, a broadcaster of shows with Kometsa. I'm an engineer by profession, and I'm a supporter of the Kometsa Friends and Families Club. And evening once again to the listeners. Yes, indeed, the weather has been quite dramatic, and I think it's signs of climate change. But as Emmanuel has said, I've also been busy with conferences, and today is special for me because my big son turned 16. Unfortunately, the load shedding has showed its ugly head once again, so it put a bit of a damper on celebrations that was planned. Nonetheless, we continue and we're looking forward to the show. Thank you, Sam.
Beautiful. Happy birthday to your son. Say grown up, 16 years. Well done. You've really pushed him. So very soon he will be following the lead from you. Hope we can get time to celebrate the milestone. Thank you.
Yeah, evening, guys. Tsecha, Khalid Patani.
Hi, Sikha.
How are you? I'm a former, I'm a DJ, I'm a Cometa Radio friends and supporters. I've been very inconsistent with the series. I've missed quite a few. I've joined quite a few. And check in holistically, I think I'm feeling a bit rested. I know it has been very busy at work lately, and it's almost, I don't know whether it will be a chilled session, but I will try effortlessly to come to the sessions. I just recently came back from a work trip overseas. That also builds up to this, but all the major things are now up to date. Then, the cold is, I don't know. I just felt like it was getting warmer, then it's getting colder again. So I'm not sure what the weather is doing to us. But overall, on the other good note is that, like, over and above works challenges, I was being monitored for my CPD. And one of the reflection items that I had there was my learnings from Cometa Radio, because you have to do a reflection plan in a way. So I thought, what I learned and what helped me professionally was active listening and being able to converse on the go. That was part of that what learning activities that we conducted in the past 2 years. So just to yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you very much for that feedback. We are glad when you can connect the achievements with the learning that you've been doing, and it's wonderful to hear. And I'm sure many more overseas trips will come.
I hope so. Or even expeditions.
Yeah.
More lately, I'm thinking it's something that I think more. In the past, I've never thought of it that much, but lately, I'm thinking more around that the
Mm,
expat. Maybe 2-3 years be an expat, then come back home. Yeah.
It's part of growth, Yeah, wonderful. You must say it into the universe. The universe will give it back to you. The law of nature. Great. Thank you so much. Maynard? We're not hearing you, but I can see your mic is unmuted, but you're not coming through. So are you try it again? Yeah. Okay. So we're not hearing you. So I think you might need to take some tricks or tips from Margo, how he got his connection right. Is the app, Margo?
Yes, it's the app. I had to download the app. All the weeks I've been struggling, but today, yeah, I'm with all of you after I downloaded.
Am I audible enough now?
We can hear you now, Maynard. Welcome back.
Thank you, and good evening, Arisam. Good evening to our listeners. And yes, it's been a very long time. I haven't heard from you, Mr. Njang. Hope Botswana is great. It's not too cold like here. Business-wise, it has been doing very well for me. It kept me very busy recently. I haven't had any much of a complaints. I've been doing very well business-wise. It's just that today we had a crisis, yeah, because since well last night was very cold towards -2, and this morning I can say about 32 of the house geysers busted because our
Sure.
geysers are outside. So it has been a chaos for us for the whole day in the complex. We've never experienced this in the past winters. Sometimes you will find maybe one neighbor complaining of the geyser, but like what happened today, it was more dramatic. But yeah, we managed to get the situation on hold. So yeah, otherwise everything so far on my side is good. Can't complain much.
Mm, mm. Wonderful. Yeah, that's those who are engineers will know why the combination of cold and heat. I'm sure there's a phenomena there, Abula.
No, Sam, I wanted to say to Margot, I don't think it's an issue of an app. It's an issue of, we spoke about social workers last week. So I realized, no. I'd rather catch up as quick as possible. Otherwise, the social worker issues are going to leave me behind.
Yeah, he took your challenge.
Indeed.
So we should not use an app as an excuse. It's an issue of social workers.
He got inspired by your comment from last week show.
At least if he's got encouraged and then does this, which means more of listeners are actually joining in that space. Thanks for that, Margot, and all the best.
Yeah, but you and I we did say that the upcoming units are very much closer to the world of social work. And we so much want him to be here because he's bringing us closer to this profession that is the most underrated, in my view, and yet so crucial. And it informed so many other professions, including our own profession of coaching and mentoring. You know, most of the models and that you learn in social work are applicable to these helping professions of coaching, mentoring, advisory, even consulting and teaching. You know, because you need this social learning environment that we're going to talk about today. And interesting enough, Marco, if you look at what we are going to discuss today in terms of projection and showing up and social learning, these are all topics under the Lekgotla methodology of facilitation. So it's amazing how the integration is coming about.
Yeah, indeed, there is a lot of integration. On the POCBIN website, I saw all the units that we went through since I joined COMESA. You have reflected all of them, and it's so interesting to see how they build up and to see how they are integrated. We are blessed, I can tell you, colleagues, to have such a wealth of information. I think our challenge is to popularize it as time continues, but we will do it gradually. But I think we are having information now that is going to liberate the nation. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for that feedback. Yeah, let's come to the topic. The concept of projection, it again comes from the perspective of being the host and also being the co-host or someone that is anchoring the show. That it could be a projection in terms of projecting your messages clear, loud and clear. But it's also projection in terms of having a strong self-efficacy. I shared with some of you the Bandura's model of self-efficacy, which is basically the opposite of imposter syndrome. You must have had a number of times that as human beings, we get given opportunities, but because of self-judgment, lack of confidence, and fear, we then sort of like restrict ourselves, because long before we even do the task at hand, we are already sort of like assessing ourselves and judging ourselves. And I think, I don't know who came up with the concept of imposter syndrome, which is basically self-imposed fear. But the model from Bandura is quite very interesting, because it talks about it is not something that you just think of it as being there. You have quite a number of things that must be in place for you to be able to overcome the imposter syndrome or self-judgment or fear. And it's quite very interesting when you look at the model, and I'm bringing it up front because it creates the context of our discussion, determining the efficacy judgments. In other words, what do you use to determine the level of self-efficacy? And the definition of self-efficacy is an individual's belief in his or her capacity to execute behaviors necessary to produce specific performance attainments. That's Bandura. Or it could be looked at as being a reflection on confidence in the ability to exert control over one's own motivation, behavior, and social environment. Now, if you think of a show, if your self-efficacy is very low, and I think the majority of you here will confirm with me, based on your experience of hosting shows, that you start judging yourself until you believe in yourself. In other ways, then, because you have got all these four elements of the self-efficacy model in place, one of those is that the performance outcomes, the verbal persuasion, the vicarious experience, and the physiological feedback. when all these are in place, if you take performance, for instance, if you have performed very well in the past in this particular task that you are about to do, you are likely to be confident that you will repeat that success. And that's why people overcome one hurdle, the next thing they put a higher target, because now, because they've done it, then the self-efficacy is very high. But also sometimes it's a matter of verbal persuasion, where you are influenced by the encouragement or discouragement pertaining to your own performance or ability to perform. And that's why it's very important that when you are hosting the show and you are a client or you are a guest, it's very uncomfortable, self-judging. You must be able to pick it up, and during the few minutes before the show, you have to do what we call persuasion and motivation by saying the right kind of words that make that person confident. By the way, the children respond very well to that as well. If the children think they are not good, and then you say to them, but you can do it. I, your mother, believe that you have got it. And then all of a sudden the child believes, and then they go and do it. And then, of course, the vicarious experience, which is the third element, is people can develop high or low self-efficacy vicariously through other people's performances. In other words, you look at other people that you think they are more or less the same with you in terms of their credentials, you see them performing very well, then you say, if they can do it, I too can do it, because I'm more or less coming from the same background with them. So a person can watch another perform and then compare their own competence with the other individual's competency, and on the basis of that, and then they do well. The last one is a physiological feedback. People experience sensations from their body, and how they perceive this emotional arousal influence their beliefs of efficacy. I'm sure you have experienced that when you have done very well and you get so much excitement, so much happy, that the experience becomes so good that you just want to repeat it. So this projection will happen when these four elements are all in place. And I think the model is so powerful. Summing up is the one leg is performance outcomes of the past. The second one is verbal persuasion by the others. The third one is you watching other people getting motivated, or the experience of success and you wanting to repeat it. So that's really what we believe that the projection will be influenced by. And when that projection is really based on that, is you're very confident, you're going to show up as being confident, and you're going to be showing up very convincingly. Yeah. And then we believe that the condition has to be right, and that's hence the concept of social learning, which in our case at COMESA is basically the Lekgotla environment that we create by following those Lekgotla principles. It's a social learning environment. So what it says is that you have to create the right environment for people's confidence to grow, so that they can project convincingly and show up as being confident and learn together collectively as a member of that social learning environment. Let me hold it there and ask some reflections from the colleagues. Anyone who's willing to come on.
I've got a view there as well, Sam.
Yes, Divesh.
From my perspective, the projection has to also involve, even if you talk online broadcasting, your guest and the interactions between the guest, the host, as well as if there's a co-host. That messaging, that relationship, it's also enshrined in the projections and the values and skill sets that you've mentioned. So it has to reciprocate amongst the, if I can put it, the stakeholders. So it's more generic and not necessarily only for the online broadcasting environment. It's something that has to reciprocate. And in our past shows, we spoke of a frequency that the messaging, the feeling, the vibration that you'd have between the stakeholders has to obviously find a common ground for success in terms of messaging, in terms of show, in terms of audience appraising what the message was, as well as how the show is being developed. So I think it's if you look at it as a community in general terms, in terms of the online broadcasting, would be referring to the host, the co-host, as well as the guest, being able to project um, as a mechanism to get everybody uh, on the same vibration that you want to get to. Sam, thank you.
And am I hearing you saying that that vibration could also engulf your listeners and they could also vibrate it back to the studio?
Yes, indeed. And it gets more dynamic as well if you've got a platform where you are providing your show, you broadcasting on, where you can also get feedback from your listeners through messaging, through call-ins, or and the like. But sometimes even just on looking at your post-show engagement, when you look at what results you had, what potential feedback you got after your show was being given through, you would see that reflections, those vibrations, whether they were in sync with what you had intended or whether they were not in sync, so that you learn from that, and then you project that as well back. So your feedback that you receive is part again as of the projections, which will either make you change what you were delivering and how you delivered it, even in terms of how the engagements went on with the guest, between yourself and the guest, that relationship, that messaging, uh, but also it reinforce whatever doubt you may have had. It gets reinforced with those projections that you get back through feedback from your listeners.
Mm, mm. And can one sense it? Let's say there's not even feedback in terms of the chat or call, but you could feel the energy even though you don't actually hear words or sounds or anything.
Yes, indeed. For example, the platform Cometsa is using the Podbean platform. We could also monitor whether we are getting more listeners or our
Yes.
listeners at a certain point is dropping.
Yeah.
That, of course, as you're monitoring it, you could have some doubt in terms of your abilities, but you got to do or practice the skills that we are highlighting in terms of reinforcing yourself, projecting a certain kind of messaging to the guest to be able to then push up your listenership, Sam. So your platforms can also give you some indications as to what is working and what is not working, and then these skills that you're mentioning uh, could be utilized then to steer the ship back on track, Sam.
And that could boost your self-efficacy as we explained it as well.
Yes, indeed. And it's a skill. I mean, it's practice that you'd go through. You would get some who, as they're starting off on this online broadcasting show, if we look at that as an example, uh, when you get this sort of negative feedback, you wouldn't grow from that. You'd actually cower and feel as if you're inadequate, as you've outlined as well in your messaging. But others might actually aspire and be driven to improve. But it's a journey as well. For majority, I would say you'd learn from those pitfalls and you improve through the skills that you're highlighting, Sam.
Beautiful. And just before the other callers come in, and that speaks to the first topic on the notes I shared with you, setting the right group dynamics. Remember, we're talking about ourselves as a social learning environment, either as listeners and co-hosts or whatever, but we are a community. And in every community or in any group, there are dynamics. Now, some of these principles, like the Lekgotla principles or the social learning principle, they create a certain dynamic. They actually help you deal with the dynamics of any natural group. And what you need then to put the right dynamics in place communication needs to be clear, both backward and forward. And then the spirit of collaboration. Like, for instance, we could be, because we are a learning platform, and we are following the Lekgotla methodology, we allow each other space to influence the environment. So that's collaboration in debate, not really tearing each other apart and planting a negative energy. Even though we can differ, but the environment remains very much of a collaboration nature. And then, of course, we love sharing the best practices. And that's also why checking in is very important, because there are certain things that could have happened since last time. As you bring them into the group, they actually become very insightful to us, and then we make it a subject of discussion. And our experiences as well, and refining those ideas to add more is like watering the garden. Even though the vegetables looks very beautiful, you continue watering and removing the wheat, because you know those could eat into the nice nutrients from the soil. So refining the ideas is part of that. And then I like the next one that talks about, as human beings belonging to the same group, we still also have our own diversity in knowledge that we are bringing in. You being aligned doesn't mean that you get rid of your uniqueness. That, in fact, is the strength that comes through that diversity as a learning community. And then, of course, social interactions. I mean, at the beginning, we went beyond, just before we could even check in, we were chatting about Bahwa. Bahwa. Say it again, Emmanuel. You know, those are social interactions that actually enriches our togetherness. And then, of course, as they say, people are different, and then also the ability to deal with people that might be different to us, or difficult people, as we may call them. So the dynamics in a group needs to be influenced, but sometimes if you don't influence them, they just happen, and they might happen in a direction that is not conducive towards social learning. Thank you. Thank you so much. I just thought I should sum that up, and let me allow other colleagues also to chip in there.
I would like to chip in here. Yeah, indeed. You're taking me through down memory lanes. You
Yeah.
know, indeed, Lekgotla gave the opportunity of setting the right group dynamics. If you look at when before we check in, we were enjoying a very nice breakfast, but the
Yeah.
purpose of the breakfast was the networking.
Yeah.
That was where we came into contact with different guests that have come there, sharing the cards, business cards. And then when we go in, we had what we call then a sharing, knowledge sharing, but it was meant to unfreeze the situation where Rasam shall have invited different guests to share with us different topics. And then we go on to share the Lekgotla methodology. We are taken through the Lekgotla methodology philosophy. And then from there, we are given the opportunity to go and have group discussions using the Lekgotla methodology.
Which we call the mini Lekgotla.
Sorry, yeah, the mini Lekgotla. And there, I think the purpose there is to also develop leadership skills, because the person that will be leading the discussions, it will be like a king, because it be the person that will be having the induku. And then we'll be having the scribe that will be taking notes. And then what was very interesting was that each and every person, we will have the name of the group. And then each and every person will introduce themselves. And therefore we gave each other, all of us, the opportunity to communicate. And then we will have group reports, and it will be very interesting to see the dynamics of each and every group that will be reporting. But that will be to enforce what we learned from the mini Lekgotla. And then from there, obviously, we will check out. And we had a specific, well-defined checking system that we followed. Yeah, those are the dynamics that we learned from the Lekgotla methodology. Thanks.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for elaborating on it and mapping it out just so nice like that. And you know, as they always say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. This is
Yes.
quite very comprehensive. I mean, you have had people coming in very fearful. And then, no, not me, not me. And then at the end of the day, you have people fighting to give feedback. You say, what happened?
Indeed,
Because the
Pratham,
social learning environment was created in such a way that the self-efficacy that was non-existent at the beginning of Lekgotla got discovered.
I'm telling you, Pratham, as you outlined the principles, we were able to communicate. We were all able to collaborate. We were able to share best practices. We provide, we sponsor ideas, but we refine them, and ultimately we collaborate. And obviously, we respected the diversities in the knowledge sharing that we were doing.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
let me hook that with the next point that I shared again earlier on the notes. This is now, if you look at it, the outcome of the Lekgotla is the development of culture of social learning. As I said, exactly that's that. And people come in very fearful, but at the end of the day, they feel like this is a safe space and they actually enjoy the experience of learning the Lekgotla way. For instance, one of the outcomes is that you make the connection with the people, especially in the mini Lekgotla. Because in the main Lekgotla, which is a plenary, it's often very difficult. And people tend to sit next to the people that they came to Lekgotla with. But the moment we break them into mini Lekgotla, because one of the principles was you don't sit with somebody that you came with, so that you meet new people. So then you develop new connections, but also the recognizing of the teaching and learning moments. So when you are sitting there, when you see a gap, like when we were forming the teams, if you have learned how to form the teams and you see people are stuck, you come in, you teach. But as you are teaching, the others are learning from you, and then they mimic that, if I may use that word, next time when the opportunity comes. And then, of course, the other aspect of it, which I like very much, is when you are, especially in the mini Lekgotla again, the culture of questioning. A person will say, I'm so and so, and then we will question deeper to drill into the background of the person, but we are not necessarily questioning a person's identity. We're actually encouraging a person to, when they introduce themselves, to really go a little bit deeper to give us a more perspective so that we don't even have to worry about remembering the name, but we remember the stories that the people share. And then, of course, as I say, it's a safe space to share. It's an environment where it's safe to share. And the Lekgotla is about that. And of course, instilling a passion for learning. That is also one of the outcomes, and a sense of sharing. Because you may come being very conservative, by the time you go back to the mini Lekgotla, to the main Lekgotla, you will have had every one member of the mini Lekgotla sharing something. And then if you happen to be a rapporteur, you will be forced to share with the plenary on behalf of your mini Lekgotla. And the colleagues will be sitting there, and if you don't do it well, they'll be shaking their heads, and then at the end, people will say, no. He has not really given you full information, and somebody will jump in and say, let's edify. They don't say he is worse, they say, let's add. And then all of a sudden now the mini Lekgotlas are like contestations, but in a very peaceful, nice way. And again, I'm not sure about those who have never attended Lekgotla, whether we are painting it to a way that next time when we get to the Lekgotla, where we discuss all these various networks. Because the real idea of Lekgotla is not the Lekgotla for the sake of Lekgotla. It is to experience Lekgotla and immediately apply it to a particular network. Now, what we call network is actually a theme. Like if we talk about mentoring or coaching, That will be a theme that Lekgotla is addressing, but we will be making you see it live to walk out of there having learned Lekgotla methodology, but also having to learn the theme itself, in this case being mentoring. You wanted to come there, Makulu?
Yes, indeed. The Lekgotla way gave us the opportunity to develop a culture. Like you talked about the culture of questioning, where we give each and everybody the opportunity to participate. But when we come to a certain point, we give them the opportunity to question without judging them.
Mm.
And indeed, as we continue with the Lekgotla way, we develop the passion for learning.
Mm.
And as you have indicated, when we go back to reporting, if a person doesn't represent the team correctly, we don't just harass. We don't harass that person. We found a way of correcting that person without harassing him.
Mm. Because the idea is for him not next time. We don't want that person next time to say, "I'm never gonna do it because you crucify me in front of the plenary." You actually even sometimes partner with the person. You don't take over the space, in this case the Ndugu. You sit, you share Ndugu. You are one in rectifying whatever gaps that might be evident.
Yes.
I'm not sure about you, Emmanuel. You go to the village quite a lot. I mean, the origin of Lekgotla is very much Limpopo and Botswana and Lesotho. So, and I think there's a lot written about the Lekgotla in the village. In fact, in Botswana, it's also being integrated in the parliament of Botswana. It is actually a recognized methodology to hold conversations, even though it's much more strong under the kingdomship in the villages.
Yeah, very, very true. Same. The Lekgotla methodology, like in our notion, the side, Rari, we say mafoko a kgotla a mante wote, meaning everyone is allowed to say or to have a say in every gathering in the kgotla. So that's it allow the freedom of speech. That is to allow the freedom of participation, where you are able to voice out what you think is actually important in building the community or in the the aspirations of the community. So this could be maybe challenges that the community might be facing, issues such as conflicts, such as vandalism. How do we make sure that we create better living environment for our community? So everyone is allowed to have a say. So that is how the Lekgotla methodology now plays a role, and it starts from there. In our, it doesn't start in the in these khotlas or in these formal places, but just in the village, in the communities, in our families, everyone is allowed to have a say on in everything that concerns the development of the family, whether it's the development of a child or if somebody doesn't do things well, they are called to say let's Ramwotlaya, or we need to talk to this guy on how he has to behave or on how they have to do certain things. So that's how it started. So it's very strong the side. And I just to add on to what was being said a bit earlier, there I think this now the importance of this actually builds more on the social capital. The more you interact, the more you get to learn from other people. It's that's the currency that will take you everywhere. I always say to people that I'm able to associate, I'm able to be in conversations with different people because I have built the social capital for myself. So it's easy now whether I'm in Zimbabwe, whether I'm in South Africa, and I can be able to have hold conversations with people from that point. So that's something that I think the check-in, all these things, having these conversations, they build you as an individual. And now when you come into a professional setting like we are doing now, and maybe I'm called to host a show, it becomes easier. Everyone buys into what I've already worked on myself into. So it's very a critical or a very important part of our development now as the radio host beyond this.
Indeed. Great stuff. And that there, Rabula, certainly in the Botswana areas there, Bafokeng and the Luka areas, a lot of lekgotla happens there, but also in conflict resolution between the Maroshi and the mining communities. You must have actually, in your involvement there, have found the magic of the lekgotla there, or experienced it.
I think my exposure first to the Lekgotla way of addressing various aspects helps me a lot in terms of engagement on the process of Lekgotla. So subsequently, it makes my life easier in the case of possible conflict, especially when you sit around the table in the Lekgotla format. And second to that, it makes life easier when you have to facilitate, especially in a sense of SLP, the social labor plan, where you engage communities.
Yeah.
It makes life much more easier in terms of making sure that each and every person is being listened to and is being addressed.
Mm. Mm.
Because if you don't, probabilities of how can I put it, of having constructive conflict or a conflict on its own, it becomes difficult.
Mm. 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 Yeah, it is quite interesting that I think it's also important, and this is where I'm excited about opportunity of bringing lekgotla into the modern management and leadership practice. The ground is very fertile here in South Africa because our government has actually named the cabinet meeting the cabinet lekgotla. So everybody now knows what lekgotla is, but not everybody has experienced the modalities of lekgotla, which really excite me, and that's why you see we constantly bring in lekgotla a lot. But I also want to say that it is not very much far away from the common big group facilitation methodologies of the world that we all know. For instance, the World Cafe methodology, which we used a lot in the 90s here in South Africa post 1994, when we were doing a lot of big facilitation, a lot of organizations underwent a lot of serious transformation activities to align themselves with the new South Africa. And that was when World Cafe methodology was brought into the country. The other methodology is Nancy Klan's Time to Think. There's a classic book, in fact, two of them she wrote. Nancy Kline is an American psychologist who has had to experience quite a lot of trauma in her life, but she recovered from that, and she came up with the concept of time to think. And her argument was that if you really want to generate ideas, you need to suspend the doing part of it. So if you're sitting in the lekgotla, for instance, and using 10 of her principles, one of the things you must suspend in the brainstorming session is to think of doing. Because the moment, she said that the moment you think an idea put on the table, and then you think about that idea in the context of implementing it, the thinking gets stopped and you don't explore more. And that's why you say you need time to think and suspend doing. And once you have processed the ideas and you produce the best ideas, then you can go into the doing mode. If you look at it, that is a lekgotla methodology. We allow people to diverge and converge, and only after convergence do we then say, okay, now that we've agreed on the 3 points out of 10, how are we going to implement it? It's quite very powerful. Many organizations, why people sometimes don't align in meetings, is while you are generating ideas, somebody think of implementation is telling you how it's not going to work. Say, no, we are not there yet. We are just generating ideas. We're still going to come through the stage of choosing which are the right ideas. Obviously, in a show, it's not going to work because in a show is really just learning and experimenting more. Divesh?
Yes, Sam. What you just was talking of made me remember what we spoke in terms of being fully present and being self-aware. This is basically the same principle of being, looking at the quality of your attention and the quality of your thinking, as well as the 10 components that you spoke of, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think why I want to align Lekgotla with this, for people not to forget that we haven't just taken this African methodology as is, we have taken it and we have adapted it to fit in the modern system. For instance, in a boardroom, you probably will symbolically have Ndugu sitting in the middle of the table. Nobody will be accessing it because it just reminds people that, remember, one of the principles of the Lekgotla is to allow people space to finish their thought process before you interject. And when they finish sharing their thought process, if it's still needing you inputting into it, you can't bring a new idea because then you are actually robbing people the opportunity to explore further. But then there are also times when Lekgotla will not work. If it's a decision-making crunch time, Lekgotla may not work for you because Lekgotla is about exploring ideas and coming up with the best ideas or the best solutions. But when you are implementing a project and you are giving a project update and there's a serious reflection to be done on the project, you may have the whole day to reflect on a project and use the Lekgotla to do what we call operations deep dive. So the application of Lekgotla is very important. Don't just apply it across the board. Make sure that you use it for the right purpose. And those methodologies of brainstorming and time to think and conscious competency model, which we always talk about, because in a conscious competency model, there's a systematic way to take people from the level of unconscious incompetency to the highest level of unconscious competence. That requires patience, that requires allowing people to evolve, and that requires people to be carried along. So the conscious competency model requires the same conditions as the Lekgotla. And I think more and more will be shared. Now, in a show where the purpose of the show is to educate people and the subject matter expert is to explore, you can decide whether you want this person to address all 10 subsets of one theme. Let's say we're talking about coaching. And then you realize that you're talking to Sam Zimmer or Ndatera Pula or somebody else who's a coaching expert. He can talk all over, but if you are using these methodologies, you might say, okay, let's just focus on the one aspect of coaching. And then allow the subject matter experts to go through all the processes of unconscious, conscious until you've got unconscious expertise achieved, or a highest level of awareness being created, using the same methodology. So the application really is limitless. As Emmanuel was saying, you could be sitting at home deliberating on where are we going on holiday as a family, and you wanting every family member to contribute. As a father or a mother of the house, you can literally use Lekgotla until the kids have explored all avenues and come up with a solution. And then afterwards, you realize that everybody has owned up because they were allowed to make input. The application is very important, and let me then take you to the role playing, because there's a lot of role playing and that the Ramutla in the Lekgotla. If you don't realize that, you are not going to experience the beauty of Lekgotla. So it's important to identify work-related scenarios that you want to use Lekgotla to address with. So a scenario in the workplace could be a strategic planning session. And then we invite a strategy facilitation expert to come and present the concept of strategy, and then we engage on that through all those mini Lekgotlas until we have seen it in real life situation happening. And then, of course, in doing so, Lekgotla requires that everybody else has a role to play. And that's why, as Ndatera Muta was explaining, at the beginning of Lekgotla, we chit-chat, having a cup of coffee, so that you break away the ice and people must have met. And then when you go into building the mini Lekgotlas, you guide the people to say, when you go into the mini Lekgotla, you must remember you are going to choose the scribe, you're going to choose the rapporteur, you're going to choose the chairperson, and you're going to choose the role players. When you come back, you must have had a conversation and agreed on what your rapporteur is going to give feedback. And when the rapporteur comes back into the main Lekgotla also has its own chair and Nduku in the middle. You don't come back and say, we practice Lekgotla in the main Lekgotla. Now we are back in the rapporteur, in the reporting phase of main Lekgotla. You can just defy the Lekgotla principle. No, you can't do that. And that's when you actually realize that the second Lekgotla, main Lekgotla, which is the checking out time or feedback time, that's where the learning is concretized. Because you have seen it in main Lekgotla, you have seen it at the beginning of the main Lekgotla, now you are finishing with it. It's almost like you are roofing the learning. So then you see all these people playing those roles, and then you realize that the social learning environment doesn't happen on its own. You either explicitly or implicitly give people roles to perform. And when people perform their roles, and then you see the magic of the principles of Lekgotla at play. But at the same time, you are actually acting it out, while at the same time you are learning from that theme which we call the network. So action, without action, there's no Lekgotla. When people are sitting there doing nothing, it doesn't mean they are not playing their roles, especially if the roles have been clarified. And then, of course, the debrief is that feedback session in the main Lekgotla, where you are now consolidating the learning. And then if you have had 5 mini Lekgotla, now you're getting feedback from 5 mini Lekgotla on the same topic. You will repeat the 5th time, even if you were not participating in your mini Lekgotla. We will force you to walk away having learned, even though you may not have not intended to really to be engaged with the learning. That is the pressure, a nice pressure of social learning that is playing itself through Lekgotla. And if you are hosting a show and you have all these principles at the back of your mind, you can literally drive your guest in the interest of the listeners. And there's also a concept of general role-playing tips that you need to give. And that's why at the beginning we do brief people, because we always assume that there might be somebody that is experiencing Lekgotla for the first time, or they're coming from the environment where Lekgotla is not practiced, or they know other similar methodologies, and that's where we make them realize that if you don't know Lekgotla, but you know World Cafe methodology, then that is actually the same concept. Or you know time to think methodology, because they all have the same rules. With the same with the generic brainstorming model. If you go and Google brainstorming, you'll find that some of the preconditions of brainstorming model are the same preconditions and principles that we have in all these others, including the Lekgotla methodology. I will hold it there once again to reflect. I was on the role playing, and then we can after your reflection, we'll come to the right kind of tools that we can use to actually reinforce our learning.
Yes, Prasem.
Sekha, you must have experienced. Yeah, carry on, Divesh.
Oh, it was Ramuta.
Oh, yes, Nadramu. We're not hearing you, Nadramu.
The Lekgotla methodology, more often than not, looking to. I was saying the Lekgotla methodology, we were relating what we were learning to what we were doing at our different work environment. I remember I had to bring some practicals from the practical things that we were doing at work in relation to what we were learning during the Lekgotla methodology. Let me stop here, Prasem, but maybe towards the end of the show, I want to share with my colleagues, we had a specific way of checking out with different points that we were looking at, but also as we were checking out, it gave us the opportunity to integrate everything that we have learned during the Lekgotla methodology.
Beautiful. I'll let you check out with that once we're almost there. Divesh?
Thank you, Sam. Just in relation to the digital online streaming mastery program, which Kumetsa was offering, and in relation to Lakotla, of course, the entire program is built on the foundation of Lakotla, but in aid of getting the right group dynamics, we've emphasized that planning is very important. Even before you even come up with the show, you decide whether you're going to have a certain co-host, and the dynamics that we spoke of, the group dynamics, it starts at that point where you select the right co-host that goes with your energy, your vibration, your beliefs system, and making sure that there can be the synergy that you need to deliver a successful show that your audience would be requiring. And then again, planning with regards to selection of guests, it should add to the group dynamic that you want to achieve. And like you have said as well, if the guest is unfamiliar with the Lakotla methodology in terms of how we're going to engage and how we're going to deliver the messaging that we want to deliver, we would have part of the planning, the briefing session with the guest, and of course the skills that we've shared as well along the route of the modules that we broadcast, also shows how you would make sure that you instill the Lakotla methodology as you are going through your show, Sam.
Indeed, indeed. Especially if you then, like if you have those themes and that you are addressing, you will have chosen the subject matter expert. You wouldn't be concerning yourself very much with the content, but with the how, which is actually the model of rolling out the show. From the moment when you are inviting the guest, you will start actually, because the obvious question they will ask you is that, is it an interview? Is it conversation? Is it, you will already start having the show in mind. So by the time actually the show happen, all those nitty-gritties are in place. Yours is just to manage them, because knowing about them is not sufficient. You must also be able to be on your feet and make sure that you follow the approach. The briefing, absolutely. And again, with the application of Lekotla as well, it's almost like talks about talks. I mean, if several times I've had to explain to people, I'm going to use the Lekotla methodology to facilitate this workshop. And then I found myself being invited to come and talk about this Lekotla that people don't know what it is. So it's definitely always dependent on how really you are prepared, yourself and your guest. But if it's already a familiar and a team, that's when you really see the magic of it. I remember that Mutla used to play a default role of reminding people when they start talking without induk, that allow silence to prevail. Don't feel pressurized just because we are quiet and you feel you must talk. You can only talk when you have induk. And if I don't want you to talk or anybody to talk, we just make sure that induk is not available. I just hold it and I keep quiet. But in the radio, obviously, you can't do that. Yeah, thanks for that interjection. Again, everything happens in a structured way. And one of the first key aspects is the planning. Emmanuel, you wanted to come in there?
Yes. I think the colleague have
I
said
thought I saw your mic opening.
Yeah, yeah, but actually, I think most of what the colleagues have said
Okay,
was actually what I would have
great.
said.
So, any other comments there? Otherwise, we're doing well. I just need to touch on the remaining points here.
No, Sam, from my side, I think today I was practicing listening skills. And I listen as much as I could, and then it keeps on reflecting at the back of my mind. Actually, sometimes you practice these things without knowing that you're actually in the culture. So, yes, I was listening as much as I could, and it gives wow to bear the back of my mind.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That intentionality is what we appreciate, because it makes you achieve quite a lot. Yeah. Let's talk about now that you have we've talked about this. They say that there are the right tools you need to use to really achieve impact of social learning. Obvious one is mentoring. And then, of course, social media is another platform with a lot of information. Critical thinking, in other words, you force yourself to analyze the content that you are receiving and make a judgment call whether it is meeting the expectations or not. So there is a thinking and there is a critical thinking. Sometimes you're thinking to be informed. Sometimes you're thinking to formulate an opinion. And that is a decision you need to take. And then sometimes if you're thinking critically, it's because you want to enter into a contestation of ideas. Maybe you also want to challenge your own perspective. I think it is also very important when you are hosting a show, whether you are going to be critical in what you are going to be receiving and assessing it. I mean, the 702 kind of talk shows are very critical talk shows because people have got very strong opinions about a number of things. So they are very constantly in a critical thinking mode, which could also be a problem in certain environments. For instance, you have these people that every time you meet them, whether it's in social gatherings or in a formal sessions, whenever they are engaging, they are always engaging critically. I'm sure you know such type of people. They never actually can loosen up and just be thinking, being engaging without being critical and without being judgmental. So one has to be very careful. If you are a critical type of a host, coming from 702 type of an environment and coming into a social learning environment, which Commercial Radio is about, you may actually upset quite a lot of listeners. But at the same time, if you have listeners who are used to debate, to critical thinking, they may find our shows quite very boring because they will be like, these guys, they're just agreeing on everything. Because they are not able to see in between the lines that when Divesh comes in and straighten up a particular thought, he's actually differing with us. It's just the demeanor in which he does it. But if it was 702, he was going to be critical and say, no, I don't agree with you. Am I analyzing it well, Divesh?
That's perfect, Sam. The platform doesn't allow for emojis. Otherwise, I would have sent an emoji.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I guess as well, those are the skills that we are imparting onto our listeners in terms of how to engage respectfully as well as with the tool sets that we have, Sam.
And we are also shaping personalities because, believe you me, there's no right or wrong personality. There's just betterment. And certain of our professions require some of these things so that tomorrow you'll find yourself showing up in such a nice way. You think it just happened on its own. No, it's because of the repetitive way of doing things. As we did say in another session, that for you to reach a level of mastery, it has been researched that you need to repeat things 10,000 times. And when you have reached it, you think you haven't repeated it 10,000 times, it just becomes your way of being. And then we say is really developed. So anyway, thank you so much, Divesh. Yeah. So modeling and observational learning. This is very interesting. In a social learning environment, we have now all simplified it for you to say, if you don't know what that is, it's all about Lekgotla. Lekgotla is a social learning type of a tool. But we are saying that, I'm just looking at that, we are then saying within that, there is a way of the way you learn, and one of those is modeling and observational learning. Basically, it says that you learn by literally being present and being in the presence of others who are probably masters of the methodology, and you are just you model what they do, you observe and you model what they do. In other ways, you allow yourself to be inspired by others. If that is your leader, you allow yourself to be inspired by your leaders. And if you follow the David Barre, is it David Barre's 7 levels of consciousness model, which we spoke about the other day, and is built on Maslow's hierarchy of need. When people are in the lower level of consciousness, level 1 to 3, they're very much preoccupied with managing and very much preoccupied with self. But those who transition from level 4 into the top 3, level 5, 6, 7, they are very much leading by influence because their level of consciousness is so high, and it's up to you to choose to learn from them by observing how they go about doing it. And then we say that you are inspired by them because they are at a very high level of influence. They don't enforce themselves on you. The other one is you intentionally boast your self-efficacy. It's like almost doing affirmations where you say, I know I can do it. I have done it before. I will do it once again. So it's like you insist, you purposefully boast your self-efficacy by saying the right positive messages in your mind. If, for instance, you're faced with submitting a budget and defending it, and you are sitting the whole night doubting that I'm not going to be able to put this through the meeting, and you look in the mirror, you say to yourself, but you have done it before. You can do it. So you boast your self-efficacy intentionally, because your subconscious mind, when you are sleeping, will actually edify you. You wake up in the morning, you just find yourself so bubbly and so positive. And then, of course, the other one is the peer role models, where you use your peers as your role model. You observe how they go about doing it, and you learn from them. Yeah. And then, of course, generating engagements. If there is no ground for you to practice things and purposefully engage with people with the idea to challenge, like Barabula was saying, today I was really practicing listening. You intentionally choose to do that, engage in that manner, and see what difference it will make to you. And the more you keep on having different models of engagement like that, you are even able to can even tell the rate at which you are growing. And as Divesh will always say, it doesn't matter whether you are hosting a show or you are conducting a conference or chairing a meeting. These competencies apply across the board. And that is really what the point I always say I carry home with me, to say you might be learning for hosting a show, but it's actually applicable across your entire professional life, and therefore learn for all seasons and for all reasons and for all projects. That is how I will look at it, and that makes life so real, rather than just confining things in one particular tunnel vision way, and then you stop applying this because you think it won't apply in another environment. No, it becomes your way of being, of engaging, and it becomes multifaceted, and you become so contributory in so many areas that you don't even realize that it comes from this platform. So yeah, so that is it. Good timing, 2023. Yeah, let's use this time now to reflect. My job was just really to generate these concepts, but I'm more interested in terms of how you receive them, how you process them, and what value it's bringing as in this the trainer course, and how you will carry it into other people as a trainer once we are done with the program. I'll stop here, and then I'm gonna ask Margot to reflect, and then also do the checking in, the famous Lokota checking out that he was talking about.
Oh, thank you very much, Rasem. Today it has been confirmed that the Lekgotla methodology is one of the methodologies that will enforce social learning, and we dealt with all the dimensions that support the social learning methodology. But I want to share with you, my colleagues, that we are a social group, and we have been socialized on how to check out. The checkout methodology has been entrenched into how we used to check out when we were dealing with the chapters of Brassem's book, and it is now entrenched in how we check out in our online digital sessions. There are points that we are following when we check out. We need to confirm the confirmation, what has been confirmed for each of us after the Lekgotla or after a show. Aha moments. I remember Brasem at the Lekgotla sessions. He was saying the light bulb moment. That is the point at which a penny dropped. Brasem, when we were checking out. And then we
Yeah.
were looking at the
Yeah.
issue of the new insight and knowledge. What insight have you gained from the Lekgotla on the new knowledge, private or professional, that we gain from the Lekgotla? The take home, what are we taking home from the Lekgotla? What would we like to share with other people in our cycle of stakeholders? And then we finally were looking at new behaviors and practices. What new behaviors or practices in our private and professional life will we adopt as a result of our Lekgotla methodology? What new practices in our private and professional life will we apply? So this was the way we had socialized our way of checking out, and as I said, this was also entrenched in our book review sessions, and this is entrenched in the way we check out during our online digital sessions. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Do we take that as you are checking out? Have you checked out? Ndadramut.
Yes, this is my check.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you. In the form of a
let us
reminder.
take this one as my checking out. Yes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for reminding us of those structured way of checking out. And then, of course, the beauty about it is once you have mastered it, sometimes you don't think too hard about it. It just becomes natural. When you are
Yes.
still learning it, it looks very structured, very stiff, inflexible. But once you have mastered it, it really becomes natural, and it's very powerful because you are in a way reflecting on the entire session.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ndadramut. Who wants to reflect and check out for us?
I think for myself, Sam, today was to say, and at school we normally use the word of saying revision and reassurance, or perhaps reassurance of what you've been doing. You might have missed one or 2 points, but today was reassurance of what I've learned in the past and what I've been practicing. That for me was to say, carry on and then just enhance consistently in what you're doing. That's all I could just put on the table as my checkout. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thanks, Ndadrabula.
Yeah, same as from my end here, colleagues.
I'm not sure if Emmanuel is still here. It says it's connected, but is not muted, but I don't think he hears us.
We can hear him,
If
Sam.
you hear us, Emmanuel, yeah?
We can hear him.
I'm here.
But I can't hear him.
You can't hear me that side.
I can hear him.
Okay. Emmanuel, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, perfect. Beautiful. Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
Oh, okay. I was to say I think it's really been a good learning experience since being part of this this team here that is being created for this radio hosting. I always find myself indirectly utilizing some of the lessons that I pick here. You don't see when you do them, but you find, oh, but this thing, I think I got it from the lesson. It happens unnoticed. I mean, without you noticing that you are doing it. So it could be maybe how do you present yourself to people? How do you talk to them? How do you show up? How do you, like, sometimes I will be in with other people, but you don't have to say anything. You just sit down and listen to them. That there's power in there. Then that's when I realized that you don't always have to say or comment on everything. Sometimes being there or your presence and be quiet makes so much impact from there. So that's one key. I think that's something that I got from this platform here, and interacting with the colleagues here, getting to learn from their lived experiences on how they've been doing things or they're continuing doing things. So I think that's one key lesson for me, and a commitment that I've made to myself is you don't just only learn these platforms and utilize them here. You utilize them everywhere. Learning doesn't stop here. Or when you are given the platform to be on radio, or having to talk to people, it's becomes an all learning thing. I mean, ongoing thing. You do it every day. Whether people are recognizing you or whether people are asking you to come do it for you, no, you do it because it's something that is embedded in you. I think that's one key for me, and I really believe that it's something that we carry on as colleagues here. Then we move on with it in our different spaces, in our different live endeavors. Thank you, colleagues. That's my my me saying good night to the colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. All the best in Francistown. I hear it's not as cold as our side. We will try. We'll get some soup and some coffee here to keep ourselves warm. Thank you. Yes, Divesh?
Yes, Sam. A short checkout from my side. Projecting oneself for me is about being able to take control of the space, being able to take control of the conversation, to also then get the aspirations that you wanted to have within your show, if we're looking at it from a online broadcasting perspective, to control that as well between the stakeholders that's involved. It's an important tool that we should develop as online broadcasters, as well as utilizing that same skills in other situations. Thank you, Sam.
Beautiful. Being intentional about how you show up and making sure that your projection is a reflection of what you are or what you know. Great stuff. Thank you so much, Divesh. Who hasn't checked out? Maynard and Seha?
Yeah, on my side, I guess confirmation for me, even now listening, I know it, I was like mainly listening, like imposter syndrome is real. Because as everybody was checking out, I was trying to compare notes that were they hearing what I was hearing, and all those things, and consequently inherently you're losing the principle of a checkout in terms of the confirmations and all those things that comes with the checking out for Lekgotla. But one thing, as we're talking, I think we deep dived a lot today into Lekgotla. One thing that made a confirmation for me, all else equal, when I don't know how to check out in meetings or anywhere, I normally use this as anything from you, Saka, then I'll be like, oh, today I learned 1, 2, 3, instead of just saying nothing. Right? So that has helped me to avoid the nothing from my side comment, at least, and to show that either you were listening or you learned something that you didn't learn. Yeah, thank you.
And that tend to be very well received, Sikha, by colleagues who you were attending with, because in a way you are affirming whoever was actually doing the presentation or leading the meeting, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Because it must be very frustrating to chair the meetings, and then at the end of the session, you ask people to reflect on the meeting, and then people don't know what to say. Not because they don't have any way to say, but they don't have a template or a model to follow, as Ndatara Mutla was sharing with us. So when you have a model, out of those 5 aspects, you will have one that you say maybe, because then my aha moment was when you were talking 1, 2, 3. That really is edifying the people that were conducting the session.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. Let me remind you, I don't know whether Maynard is able to check out because the network is keep on kicking him out. Are you back, Maynard? No, he is not able to check out. I don't know whether he's able to check out with WhatsApp because we're losing him a lot. Maynard, yeah, we're not able. Can you hear us? Yeah, sorry about that. Your network is failing you, so I don't know what is happening there, but probably it has to do with your connectivity there. Great. So we'll connect again in the coming week. We will be looking at unit number 22. Let me see that will be unit number 22, and conduct number 17. It's about respectful interaction. And that is mapped against attention management, which we've already done. So it's going to be more practical, this one. Engage in respectful interactions, an essential part of attention management. So again, as I said, the conducts really keep on emphasizing what we know already. And I think that respectful interaction is something about the values that we hold in this social learning environment. Thank you so much, colleagues. That was our weekly show, the digital online streaming platform or digital online streaming mastery show. My name is Sam Zimmer, and I was together with the colleagues holding the fort here. The mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. And as a reminder, our shows are based on the principle called the idea. We inform and entertain, develop and educate, empower and support, associate and network. That's the idea. Thank you so much. You take care. You can always visit the previous episodes of this series at insightsonlinepodcast.com. And then, of course, if you want to connect with a bigger organization, that's comezamember.com, which is our membership platform, up and running on the new platform now. Lots of information there, lots of opportunity. You can check it. Thank you, colleagues. Enjoy the evening. Those are going to watch the European tournament. It's the semifinals today. Spain is playing France now at 9 o'clock. If you are not aware, I'm going to watch. Take care. Goodbye.
Take care, Brasam. Good night. Good night, everyone.
Thank you so much, colleague.
Good night. Bye.
Body.